Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Ranger Rob Country Living podcast. This is episode 24. I want to welcome everybody to the show, but before we begin, we need to also let you know where you can find the show. and I need to introduce Dale Wiley. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Ranger Rob. How are you doing?
Pretty good. It's like I go through all this stuff, and then Dale's just sitting there going, "Hello."
No, I'm fine. I'm good. You get around to me when it's time.
Okay, so I want to let you know you can find the Ranger Rob Country Living podcast on Spreaker and several platforms like iHeartRadio and Spotify and on and on and on. And a lot of links to the show are down in the description below. Also, you can find us on the Central Oregon. What is the name of that? Central Oregon Radio.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
yeah, it's a radio station we own, and it's a internet radio station, and has a lot of great music and has a lot of great shows that people in our area would definitely enjoy. So yeah, that's Central Oregon Radio, and if you want to find it, just go to centraloregonradio.com. And I think that's all I got. So how are you today, Dale?
I'm doing well. I worked hard today. I made progress, so it felt like a pretty good day from that aspect anyway.
Yeah, I've been planting a lot of tomatoes. I mean, I don't know what it is. I tell me if you have this trouble. So I go to plant, it's like Sherry and I went in the greenhouse. We got a count. We got like 24 Dutch buckets, all for tomatoes, right? So that means I should only have 24 tomato plants. So I start planting away and I just can't stop. I've got like 75 plants right now started, and they're all tomatoes. It's like, what am I going to do with all these tomatoes?
Well, I don't have 75 tomatoes started, but a couple weeks ago, my granddaughter helped me out starting some of these peat pots up, and the lettuce just blew up. And I had like 13 of these things, and now I've got 2 pots and a long tray of lettuce in our master bathroom, which has a beautiful southern exposure with 9-foot windows in it. And so those are growing and everything else. I just, I'm not going to get carried away. I'm not going to seed up here probably until about the 10th of March or anything. But no, I will have more plants than I have either containers or soil to put them in. So I know the feeling. It happens easily.
I don't know why I do that. I just start planting, and it's like, well, I got maybe 10 more seeds left. I may as well plant those, And,
Sure, why
and
not?
before you know it, it's like, okay, I've got like 3 sheets of 23 or 24 plants each or something like that. It's like, what happened?
Yeah.
So luckily I told Marion, and yeah, I'm not looking at the chat right now. So if there's something going on there, let me know.
I'm not seeing anything.
Anyway, I know Marion says I'll take some, and so if anybody in Crooked River Ranch needs some tomato starters, I've got all kinds from big beef to Cherokee purples to Mazzano, Mazzinos,
Yep.
and I big beefs, hybrids, all kinds. So anyway, if you guys need tomato plants this year, make sure and send me an IM, and we'll see if we can do a little trading or something. And yeah, so
I've got beefsteaks. I don't have any varieties. I'm just running straight beefsteaks on mine. So
yeah, I'm going to do the Jet Stars again too.
Yeah.
So if you haven't tried the Jet Star, I've got Jet Stars. So
I got some Oregon Spring seed coming. I've liked those. I've done well with those in the past, and so I'll have 50 or so of those, something like that.
So while we're talking, I'm also doing some of our what's called marketing here. Just a second here. Yeah. So with your greenhouse, what are you doing? Just lettuce right now, or?
Oh no, that was just stuff I did in the house here and everything else. Right now, I've got some grasses, some perennial grasses out there in mine right now. I'm not putting any heat on it or anything like that. I've got all the patio furniture stored in it, so the patio furniture comes out tomorrow. And then we actually put just the typical hillbilly farmer cold frame up over all of our raised beds outside. So we got someplace to take this stuff. So just wait. As soon as my peat pots get here, then I'm going to seed up some stuff.
Yeah. So, Brandon, it just got on here, and we were going to get to that for sure. But just before the show started, there's a issue, and the news is we watch actually monitor the stuff all day. That a nuclear plant got hit over
Yep.
in
So,
Ukraine. Now, at first, it gets distorted and the whole works, but it sounds like it was there was a fire and it hit a training center, but the the at the time there doesn't seem to be any issue with the actual power plant itself. However, it's really early, so hard to get really clear information about that. But I do want to thank Brandon for bringing that up. That yeah, we got to stay alert, and that's kind of what we're talking about in this show. But before I get into that, I got one more thing we got to cover, and then we'll move into threats and stuff. So once again, we're in the Crooked River Ranch area. So we're finding we have a lot of people on the Crooked River Ranch in Oregon listen to us. So Dale is actually more on top of things than I am in the area. But is there any unique news or anything going on in Crooked River Ranch this week that you think is worth discussing?
well, I just touched on that briefly, as I stated before the show. There, I've kind of backed off on my involvement in that a little bit, given the fact that it's just like 150% negative adversarial interactions with people, and I'm just not going to do that at my stage in life and everything. And so I kind of backed out of it. But one of the results was, they were going to have this rodeo, which seemed to trigger a lot of people and everything else. And they filed a development application with the Jefferson County here, which when you do that, it triggers a multitude checklist of different things. And a lot of people are putting pressure on social media. They're having a meeting actually tonight down at the senior center
I
here
saw
on
that.
the ranch, or is it 4 o'clock or so? I think it was, to go over this, because some problems with the adjacent property owner, who is a federally licensed wildlife rehabilitation center. And he was dialing for dollars for the last few days and got a lot of stuff on here. And so the last report I had was this shaky deal they had with the promoter. He says, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm ejecting. I'm done. I'm out and everything. And so that's kind of where that one is sitting at right now, because, I mean, a lot of us saw this thing coming and everything else, but that's about all that's going on. And I, as I was going through this, and, people are sending me nasty emails and, calling, just the usual shit slinging on social media and everything. I just kind of got tired of that whole thing. And there's other things I can do. And I think anybody that is watching this, and obviously Brandon's well aware of what's going on out in the world and some of this other stuff. We got a lot of worse things facing us right now. And so I've kind of decided to refocus my efforts back where they should be. And that's on making sure myself and my family are as prepared as we possibly can for this absolute carnage that's going to happen in our economy here pretty soon.
That's for sure. I really, even on my videos, I keep telling people is like, well, I went to the store and topped off my preps and stuff like that. And the second here, I get my screens messed up here. I didn't mean to do that yet.
Yeah, that looks familiar.
Yeah. Sorry, sorry guys, I'm just pushing buttons. So anyway, so I really, really seriously topped off my preps for just dumb little things like a few more spaghettis, a few more sauces, a few more of these little odds and ends that, because we rotated our preps. And I showed on a video, maybe 3 videos ago, what our preps look like. And I know all these people have these beautiful pantries and they've got tons of stuff in it. Well, we don't have the rooms like that. So you'll notice it's in my garage, it's in my office, it's in our back room, it's in our pantry, it's in my studio, and it's out in our shop.
Tote boxes are your friend right now in prepping.
Oh yeah. And so guys, if you think being preppers, you have to have these beautiful shelves and all that stuff, hell with that crap.
No,
Phil,
just pile it in there.
yeah, just put your stuff where it's appropriate. Now, if it's like canned goods and stuff like that, don't put them in the garage and stuff because it's freezing and stuff like that. But those have to be kind of indoors and in nice or cool areas and stuff like that. But who cares what it freaking looks like when you're hungry? Yeah, if you can just open up a tote, you're gonna be so happy with yourself that stuff. So today's title was actually the same title I was going kind of working from last week, but I didn't actually go with it. But it's a powerful title, and let me go ahead and bring that back up again. Whoosh. So the title of this particular show is um, "What are our greatest threats right now?" And so when I say that, I hate these people think, "Oh, you're fear mongering," and it's like, no, we're just kind of like giving you food for thought. Let's put it that way. And Dale and I both agree that, I think you essentially should have gotten started a year ago. But
Yeah.
if you haven't started yet, today is a great day to start.
Yep.
We don't care if you got just 1 week of being a little more prepared or a month or whatever. But every time you hit a milestone, double it and or triple it. So if you got a month, go for 3 months. If you got 3 months, go for 9 months, and so on and so on. Get up to a year. And if it takes you 2 years to get there, great, no biggie. But there's no judgment. That's where there's no competition. There's no judgment. You have to work within your means, obviously. And by the way, I mean, the best place to get some of your prepping is dollar stores and these little buy marts like we have and stuff like. There's some gems in there and affordable. And but you still got to remember other things like, can you boil water? Can you?
Yeah.
It's winter here. Can you somehow heat a room safely? I want to make sure we use the word safely. Um, by the way, I don't know if you've seen this yet, Dale, but have you seen all those is it Mr. Heaters?
The
Mr.
little
Heaters?
buddies.
Yeah, buddy heaters.
Little buddies.
Anyway,
Got two of them.
I've
Got
seen the
two of
most. I got a couple too, but I saw something I didn't realize you could do. But you know those little fans that you can put on top of. It came
wood
from the
stove.
radio. Welcome to the show. Um, we got those little fans you put on top of a wood stove.
Yep.
Anyway, you can mount those on the top of a Mr. Buddy heater. Am I saying that right?
That's
Mr.
what the box said on mine.
I think
In
it's
the other
Heater
room.
Buddy. Anyway, you can put those on the top of those things and you can create a bracket or something like that. And not only will those are semi-safe in the house, you still should have ventilation, but you can put that on there as a natural fan to
Yeah.
push the heat from one of those because it mounts on the top of the Mr. Buddy heater. And it's amazing. And it's like, I've never seen anybody do that before. Now I'm seeing it all the time. It's clever and very affordable. So if you want to make a Mr. Buddy heater really go, really get some performance out of it and heat a room a little bit better, because once you run those, the heat doesn't really push anywhere until you put a fan near it. And is it called an echo fan? Is that Sharon? And there's Sharon. We're just talking about you, Sharon. Anyway, yeah, echo fan. I guess that's what they call them. Is that right, Dale? Do you remember?
They're a heat fan. They're just a little fan that sits up there, and the rising heat powers them. And from what I've heard, everybody says that it increases. I mean, if you've got a little buddy heater, which they're just a radiant heater, they don't have any air or anything like that. You should probably get one of these because it greatly increases the efficiency of it.
I know, and it's amazing. So I'm definitely keeping my eyes out to pick one of those up. I'm sure I can just get one on Amazon. But anyway, yeah. So to go back to kind of the subject is, don't forget about those little things like, do you have matches? Do you have light bulbs? Do you have batteries? Can you recharge some batteries? Do you have a radio? Things like that. But I would stick with food first. I mean,
Yep.
your neighbors might have some of the other things I just mentioned, but when it comes to food, that's really got to be the top of your list, because you're useless. And then, of course, water, of course. But yeah, I mean, we got some real threats going on here, and I don't know if people actually take some of this stuff serious. Because I mean, if you think about what's going on, this generation, even my generation, we have not been through war. I almost got drafted back when I was 16 in the 70s. They just shut it off for Vietnam in 76 or 75. And I was like 16 years old at the time.
I
So I've never dealt with war or being in the military. Now my kids have been in the military, so our family does support the military. I was a college boy, I'll tell you right there. So anyway, we've never had anything like what the Ukrainians are going through. Now, if you really pay attention to the Ukrainians, they're just living life just like us. They're modern. They they all have cell phones. They're living like us, and they did break off from a terrible country several years ago, but uh, but yeah, they were just like us. And then overnight, their whole country is under siege, and that could be us very easily. I'm having a hard time keeping up here. Hi, Sharon and Brandon. What did you say? It's been seeing those in tiny
yep,
homes.
exactly.
Oh, yeah, in the tiny homes they're using those. Yeah, Sharon is yes. So, Sharon, we were talking about tomato plants, and I mentioned your names. Like, I got like 50 extra tomato plants by the time I'm done here. So we'll have to get together and do some trading because she plants some has some neat little plants that she gave me last year. And then Brandon thought about picking up a hand pump bell 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 water well kit. What is that? Bell, Dale, you know what that is?
I I got the hand pump part, but the rest of it I'm not
It's a
tracking.
bell water well kit from Ace Hardware. Is it for trying to? Of course, where does Brandon live? Do you know what region? Because I mean, there's people that can actually go down with a well pipe, maybe 20 to 40 feet, and hit water and put a
Oh,
pump on it.
yeah.
But you can't do it here. We got to go 400 feet. um, Yep, Marion says, sure, we'll trade. Sounds good. I have to have Marion over here. Um, we're going to have twice as much corn next year, Marion. So just letting you know. So anyway, I know you have some things that you wanted to bring up, Dale. So I want you. Oh, Brandon clarified it. Go, sorry, a water pitcher pump. Where you're
Oh,
from.
okay.
You know what that is, Dale?
Yeah, it's probably one of the old hand pumps like that.
Yeah.
Basically, it's a diaphragm that lifts it up.
Yeah.
We used to use them prime irrigation pumps with.
Yeah. So I've been watching a video of a guy hand drilling one of those where they're actually got a handle across. There's a pipe in the ground, and they got a big old handle on the top, and they're turning it by hand. And so he puts his daughter on his shoulders, and they walk around in a circle, digging the hole for the well.
Yeah.
But I guess it works if you go in a place that's got a water.
These are the old ones they have on the horse troughs or something like that. I mean, you might get a 20-foot lift on them, which was fairly common with old hand dug surface wells and everything back in the day. But I got one. My wife's got one out here for yard decoration. I guess if I ever need it, it's not going to pull feet, and I have no well. So, but,
yeah. So
okay.
Go ahead. You had some things you were going to bring up, so I need to give you some.
Yeah,
time to talk
I just, I want people to be aware, and I think we've both made them, alluded to a lot of this stuff and everything that's been going on and what's happened in the world, the unfortunate conflict over in Ukraine and Russia. That's unfortunate for the Ukrainian people, but you got to look at some of the things that have happened around that, and that they're going to impact the other countries. And anytime, I've made allusions that there was going to be some kind of a large-scale catastrophic geopolitical event that is going to play hell with our economy and our way of living. And it didn't necessarily have to be in the U.S. This was it. The Ukraine, the Russian invasion of Ukraine was that. With all the sanctions the various countries of NATO and outside of the world are putting on Russia, it drove their ruble, the value of their currency, down 30% yesterday and everything. And anytime you have a world superpower and their currency loses 30% of its value in one day, you have a major problem and everything. And that goes along with the fact that U.S. banks and financial institutions are invested in Russia. One bank alone has over $10 billion of exposure in liabilities in Russia right now. Okay, and so what else did we do? Russia was bad. They went in and invaded Ukraine. let's cut their oil off. We're not going to buy oil. The world's not going to buy oil from Russia anymore. So, what you knock off 15% or better of the world's supply of oil that's coming out of Russia and everything. And so we could get into economic theories and every place else, but I'm gonna give you some sources to go that'll help you understand this. So y'all that are listening out there, have a paper and a pencil or something to write it or put it in your phone. I'm going to give you some places to go that'll help you understand this. And basically, as you prep through this thing, Ranger Rob and I both we're talking about some basic preps as far as food supplies, water, everything else like this. But you got to have another prep, and that's going to be the one in your head that sees what's going on out there and everything. And I spend probably an hour and a half a day doing research on the internet and everything. And I have some people that I follow. They're independent news sources. I think we talked about one on there last time. These guys are economists and they're businessmen. And to each one of them, they're calling for some kind of a major economic disaster in this country over the next year. That could happen in 60 days. It could happen in 90 days, or it could just start happening each month and slowly get worse and worse. Obviously, I went out and purchased some materials for my nursery operation today and some landscaping work around without the house. 20 to 25% price increases in the materials and in the cost of the trailer. And then when I stopped to fill my pickup with diesel on the way home, I saw the price was $4.99. I asked the guy, I says, when's it going to $5? And he says, my boss says in the morning and everything. So we're going to see $5 a gallon diesel here in Central Oregon, tomorrow, basically. And that's just going to kind of move on down through. Some of the things that have helped me understand this are some of the sources that I found out there. And, Jack's he's listening to us. There's a couple of sites out there, and Rob's given me the approval to give these things. It's probably not going to take any time away from either one of these, but there's one of them called Peak Prosperity. It's Dr. Chris Martinson. He's a data-driven genius that put a video out yesterday. It's 38 minutes long. Stick with it all 38 minutes, and by the end of the 38 minutes, you're going to have a much better understanding of why this is all tied to oil, the economy, the lack of capacity in our economy or global economies, essentially, to outproduce the rate of inflation. It's impossible. So check him out. There's another one. Guy's a businessman. His name's Dan Ayad, allegedly, and he puts out a video every day. I watch him every day. Another one is Jeremiah Babe, JB they call him, and everything. Jeremiah gets a little carried away sometimes, and so you take his with a little bit of a grain of salt. And then another guy, and I mean, these are, their screen names and everything else like that. Believe me, I wouldn't be listening to them if I didn't feel what these guys were saying was valuable. And he's called the Economic Ninja and everything. And so I watch these guys. I watch these guys every day. And so that's a level there that I have an understanding with. So, people that are in the technical aspect, you need to watch the other preppers that are out there. I mean, there's the Providence, Canadian, Southern. I mean, there's half a dozen of them out there. That's great for the technical side, but also understand that what we're dealing with here, is something it's going to happen. There's going to be no good economic news in 2022. And I don't, these guys are, and I don't want to say I'm calling my shot or anything. I'm not. I'm just seeing what I see out there right now. And when I notice that I paid 25% more for my materials and obviously the cost of everything, that's a 2% annualized inflation rate. So just go ahead and figure that we're going to have at least 2% per month inflation through the end of this year. Now, that's a hell of a chunk of money that's going to come at it and everything. So govern yourselves accordingly. I mean, I'm kind of looking at this thing. I'm reconsidering all my travel plans for this year. I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what the cost of the fuels can be. I can afford it if I wanted to, but does that mean it's a good idea? Do I want to get that far away from home in crazy times and everything like that? And then touching on something, and these guys have touched on it. Rob's touched on it. I'm going to touch on it again. cyber warfare is happening right now. It's cyber warfare is just going to be a part of any military action that any country uses. And so people are basically just SOL over there. They can't get any type of money out of the bank or something like that and everything. And so right now, Ranger Rob and I have both, said we have cash and everything else like that. Obviously that you have to be prepared security wise to deal with that. But whatever you've got in cash, if you can afford it, double it right now or more. I'd be looking to have 6 months worth of living expenses that I could lay my hands on right now. I want nothing to do with banks other than just maybe some minor bill paying and things like that. So if a bank does go bad, I'm only out a few $100. I'm not out thousands or anything else like that.
Yeah.
I'll deal with the consequences of that and everything, but I can't stress that enough to people right now. That as part of your preps, make sure that you've got a minimum of 3 to 6 months worth of cash that you can lay your hands onto real quickly and everything. Because there's a lot of people finding out once these banks go down, it's not a good thing. And
let me tell a little story a little bit. One of your banking things is Sherry and I are getting ready to go to Vegas, right? So Sherry stopped at Madras and decided, we're going to get ourselves some cash. And so we, if I need to get 500 or something, no big deal, right? But this was a little more than that. It was closer to over $1,500. Let's say that, okay? And so she goes in the bank, and the gal goes, "What can I help you?" And she goes, "Yeah, I need to get such and such out of our savings." So she looks at our savings, and we've been saving. We have money, And she looks in there, and the gal goes, "Well, we can give you 5,000 right now, but we'd have to give you cashier checks because we don't have cash in the bank." And our number's not that high.
This has been going on. In 2019. I went to my bank on a Friday morning because I was coming over here to Bend to buy an Explorer for $9,000. And I said, "Yeah, I need $10,000 in cash." He thought I'd have held the place up. Well, it's payday Friday. I don't know if we got people coming in to cash checks. And I go, "How much is in my account?" And everything. And they told me, and it was well in excess of $10,000. And I says, "Okay," I says, I have enough money in there, and I need this money to go buy this vehicle. So please make arrangements for this to happen. And it was people digging into drawers and places in the vault and everything else.
Breaking open piggy banks.
Oh yeah, and they finally come up with my $10,000, and I'd have held the place up, and everything. And so, boy, that was a lesson, and that was 3 years ago. So
yeah. So and the whole point to this whole thing is if there's a bank run, because what's different today, guys, is banks will, if they go into panic mode, let's say someone's attempting to even hack them, they're going to maybe Dale will sponsor my show.
He wants to lose his customers.
Anyway, the thing is with the cyber threats, even with threats, the banks will, in order to protect themselves, may actually shut down all their electronics. That means their ability to give or do anything with a teller, but also your ATMs and possibly our debit cards or credit cards, just to protect themselves.
Why they have to do that?
What's that?
You know why they have to do that? Because their security systems and everything they else have are amateur, and they're horribly inadequate for what's involved there. I ran into this problem, I don't know, 12, 14 years ago, and I went into the bank, and they had my account locked up for some reason for something, and I had to explain to the vice president of the bank and somebody on the phone how easy it was to run these frauds on there. Their IT people are horrible. It just.
Well, yeah. The bad thing is let's say they do say shut off the ATMs or shut off the tellers, shut down the banks. Because over and over I'm seeing reports from Economic Ninja, all these guys,
Yep.
banks being shut down or closed. A lot of them will shut down for a couple of days, and we don't even know what the reasons are. The bottom line is it interferes with his business, and it would definitely interfere with your business, which means I feel sorry if you're kind of living paycheck to paycheck and you decide you got to go get Similac for your
Oh,
kid,
yeah.
or if
Yeah.
you
It's
need
horrible.
diapers or you need something just for the children, and your debit card doesn't work and you didn't put away, keep a little
Yep.
cash at the house, you're hurting. And then if you decide to go out, realize, oh, I need to add a little gas to your car, and the debit cards are not working for a day or two, just for a couple of days, you'll feel screwed up. And so I don't know why, some people look at us as fear mongers and stuff, and that's not it at all. Maybe it
Another.
should be. Maybe it should be. I don't think some people are really scared enough or concerned enough because they're living the easy life of indulgence. Is really what I think we live here. But I don't think these people really realize what it's like to go to a store and your credit card doesn't work, and it's not your fault, or go to a bank and realize the doors are locked, um, or
Yeah.
go get gas and realize your card won't work,
Who do
and
you call?
you what are you gonna do?
You're
and
just
and so
SOL.
and it's so easy, and it can happen now. It could happen right now. We
Yep.
could be done with this podcast and realize our ATMs aren't working. Doesn't mean the world's going to crash and burn or apocalypse, but it's like, why don't you have at least 100 to whatever you can afford of spare cash at your home, that, or keep a $50 bill in your wallet? I'm not going to use big numbers to try to um, belittle anybody. If you can keep a 20, if you can keep 50 in your wallet or in your purse, just in the background, and don't touch it, just in case and it could happen even if there wasn't a crisis. Let's say you're driving down to from here to Reno, let's say, and you get to uh, Lakeview, the power is out, and or their ATM or internet goes down and they can't process credit cards, and you need gas to keep going. If you had a $50 bill with you, you could probably still get cash. I mean, still get fuel there, but you'd have to pay cash. So those emergencies can happen even when there isn't really a crisis. It could be like an emergency, or internets go down. Sometimes credit card systems go down, and you get to these remote places and they can't run a credit card, and you need to fuel up to get all the way to Reno. You're screwed if you don't have some cash on you.
This can even be just, errors on the bank, or the fraud that goes on.
Yeah.
In our business, we got hit with some fraud, number of years ago and everything. I had 3 guys working in Medford, and I had 3 more working down in Reading and everything. And they shut our debit cards off on our accounts and everything. And I go, what? I don't know what to do and everything. And I said, man, these guys got to keep these jobs going and everything else. So of course I have to go get cash at my home bank, hop a plane down there and everything, and make sure we can keep things running. And that was a relatively simple thing. The mattress is a helpful bank. Well, if you're an old farm boy, thousands of dollars were kept in the freezer between the roast down there. So
I had to laugh because I came from the radio. He mentioned keeping a quarter or something in our wallets. Back in my day, I remember I was going to camp, and my mom gave me a dime to keep in something so I could call home if I had to.
Steel dime. And then when we were kids, we'd run around every fair and carnival we can, checking the coin returns on those things for the people that would forget it, and then you'd score like a couple of, that was cool stuff. Take a race to
I remember
carnival,
that. I
take it
did
to
the same
carnival
thing.
Midway and put it on the dime the last throws. Gamble.
I got those. I lived in a place in Kent, in Washington, and when I was a kid, we used to take my wagon, those little red wagons, and for a mile from my house, you could do this when we were kids. We had a place called Foss's grocery store, and we would walk with a wagon and collect all the bottles in the ditch and stuff. And when we get up there, turn all those in and then fill ourselves with
Candy.
candy.
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Crazy
Of course,
stuff.
we're getting off there, but I forgot. Forgive me. I can swear. I think it's Scott. It came from the radio. It was a good friend of mine, but I haven't dialogued with him in a long time, and I've forgotten his first name. So forgive me. I would say your name, but it's just I'm afraid I'm not sure what it is. I could swear it was something like Scott, but I just go blank. So if you would be nice enough in the comments, let me remind me what your first name is. I'll be more personal. But it came from the radio, by the way, is also Mark. Yes. Senior moment. So Mark has a show with us on Central Oregon Radio. So we urge you guys to go check out his show. It's very entertaining. He has a really good radio voice, and I definitely enjoy his show. So you get a chance, check out. It came from the radio, and he plays on Saturday and Sundays. I can almost tell you what time. I've got a lot of screens up, so forgive me. Oh, I don't have that screen up because it just rebooted. But I believe he's on in the evening. Is it the evening, Mark? On Saturday and Sunday. And so anyway, please, we just put a new episode up there for him. And go check out his show at centraloregonradio.com. And the show's called It Came From the Radio. Go to our schedule button on centraloregonradio.com. Check out when his show plays. You'll really enjoy it. They're a fun show. You'll get good laughs. They always have good. What's your main focus on your show, Mark? See if I can get a quick one. And with that, take a look at what Jack said. Have multiple debit cards. That's a good idea. One Visa based, one MasterCard.
That's way too many banks for me to deal with. Nothing to do with. One's about bad enough. I don't want nothing to do with any more of one.
I think, and I don't disagree with that. However, a lot of times when I've seen internet cards not working, it's literally the machine is not operable. It's either something wrong with the bank that processes the cards, and it's also sometimes it's an internet issue or connection network issues, and you're dead in the water. Nothing works. Yeah. And so, and I've seen that even when there isn't a crisis. So that's what it is. So Mark's show is about movies, comics, and independent creators. And he does some great interviews, by the way. So check out his show, centraloregonradio.com. It came from the radio, and he's on. Thank God he just said it on here. Where are you? Where do you put the time? There it is. I put you on at 4. So he's on Saturday and Sunday Eastern time at 4 p.m. So I must have you earlier in the day on Pacific time.
1 o'clock Pacific.
Yeah. So all right, go check out centraloregonradio.com. Go check out the schedule to figure out when it plays in your local area. And of course, we do have a worldwide listener. So yeah, check out when it plays for you, because the schedule you'll see is based on Pacific time. So he also says, I used to work for the movie theater, and there was countless times when when the credit card machine went down all the time. It used to feel bad for the customers. Yeah, I mean, they want to go see a movie. He's like, sorry, you can't pay for it.
Yeah, I've seen people that couldn't pay for a Danish and a juice drink at the store. They had whipped their debit card out and everything, and it wouldn't work, and everything. And, depending on the situation, I mean, the one guy that I saw, there's no way in hell I'm doing anything for him, and I saw it happen another time, his mom and the kids standing there. I mean, what are you going to do? Type of thing. And it's like, yeah, you better watch that. And you paid for their stuff and sent them on their way.
So I'm kind of checking our agenda here, make sure we're kind of covering some of the things. So some of the things I got on my list here is we're talking about food and fuel shortages and price increases for sure. Yep. Based on our current threats, and that's what our title of our show is today. You put on here level 2 and level 3. What does that mean?
Well,
Yeah.
basically there's levels in prepping and everything else. And I mean, you can have level 1, 2, 3, 4. You can have as many as you want to, or anything else. But I mean, they're the only ones that really matter. I think they're summarized in 3 levels. Level 1 is you're thinking about it, but if you ask yourself that question, can I survive 2 or 3 weeks without going to the store? And the answer is no. Then you're at level 1 and you're in a bad way, and you really need to start making some progress moving forward. And it all depending on whose matrix you got. Experienced people like Ranger Rob and myself, we could not be as high as we think we are, and that's illustrated, lots of times. Obviously, my frozen water, and by the way, that thing is still rock block of ice
Oh,
down there. I don't have any spare water, right now. So that's a level of prepping there. Getting to that next level, striving to have that 3 months worth of stuff there is good. And then, you can look at these things, and in a level 2 or level 3, whatever you want to, we're going to assume we have an intact grid, that we have electricity and we have water and everything else. And then, if you don't have electricity and you don't have water, this whole prepping thing just went to a completely different level that's going to complicate your life in ways that you cannot even imagine. And this stuff's all quantifiable. And even myself, somebody that's reasonably well prepared, I could not go 30 days basically on energy that I've got, propanes and I could gasolines and fuels like that. I can make that stuff get last, but if I got to heat this house and try to keep myself warm, I'm gonna go through some propane or some electricity or something like that. And that's just a whole different level. And I mean, I learned that lesson when we got removed. We had to leave a trailer park because they didn't have enough room for us, RV park, when we were building our house here in Crooked River Ranch and everything. We thought, oh, no problem. We'll just go live up at the property where we're building the house. Yeah, okay. That was a bad camping trip and everything. Because even though it was right here, I would spend 3 hours a day dealing with electricity, dealing with water. My wife's working nights sometimes. She's trying to sleep during the day, and I'm running the air conditioners in the RV, and I'm pumping water into the RV out of a 50-gallon barrel that was in the back of my pickup with a 12, biggest pain in the ass there ever was and everything. And so, then our son says, yeah, just come over to my place. I got some hookups for you and everything. That made it a lot easier. And so when you do, when you're looking at preps, food, shelter, and everything else like that, get that up and everything else, because, if we lose grid, if we lose water, we lose electricity, we're all going to be in the same boat. Or, none of us are really going to have any specific long-term advantage over the next person. People don't realize what it takes to generate electricity. The amount of fossil fuels that you have to, that's why electric cars and planes make no sense. You have to convert, that electrical energy, and the whole science behind it and everything. It just becomes extremely problematic, for people. So that's one thing to be aware of. Plan for intact grids, electric and water. And then when you think you've got yourself prepped, then just say, what happens if I don't have water or electrical grid? Because it's your time for preparing and just living life just increased big time.
yeah. So yeah, the funny thing is, as I'm looking at our list here, is um, I see you got a note here. It says short chain food and fuels indicator elements of the supply chain problem. You want to clarify in that a little bit?
Well, obviously you can tell I wrote that, probably a short time ago, actually 3 or 4 months probably on there. Short chain, I refer to short chain market distribution. I mean, the things that take the least amount of time to make it from a distribution center into your local retail outlet. And food and fuel are 2 of those. I mean, those are time sensitive. These stores don't have big piles of food in the back cases or anything. They don't have huge coolers to store all this frozen stuff and everything like that. And most fuel stations, and I was in the business for a number of years. I delivered fuel truck and trailers all over the state and everything. And that is the epitome of just in time. They know when they need to reorder, and there's a little bit of a leeway in there, maybe half a day at the most on most of these things. And if they don't get those deliveries in half a day, they're going to be out and everything on fuel. So anything that's a short chain, and those tend to be perishable or highly, but once again, oil, energy, that's the basis of our economy. Without that, nothing flows. And so if that's impacted, everything comes to a screeching halt a whole lot faster. Inside a couple of stores this last week, supplies look good and everything. It looked a little better than the last time I was in there. That doesn't mean anything, really. I mean, that can all change in such a short period of time that it is. So if you want to, know where your problems are going to come, that's the two: food and fuel. That's going to happen first, and then everything else is going to follow along. Particularly the fuel. With these fuels going up, I don't know what these farmers are going to do. I mean, this year on prices of this stuff. I mean, $5 a gallon diesel, and these tractors, they're burning 400 gallons a day. Some just for the larger stuff, economy of scale. I've been there. I don't like $1,000 a day fuel bills. It's not good.
Yeah. So I want to bring up a homesteader called Appalachia's Homestead. I think I'm saying it right. Anyway, she has a wonderful channel, and she's like us. She kind of rants and is like, guys, you got to pull your head out of your ass. But she brought up something. It was like, I guess she kind of brings up things that are sensitive, and the latest thing that she brought up, and I talked about it in one of my videos this week, is homesteaders. A lot of you guys who enjoy homesteaders around you or small farms, and you might get fresh eggs, and you've always been giving them like $3 or $4 for a dozen eggs or something like that. Well, I can tell you one thing: if you watch my video tomorrow, you'll see that I've got a whole bunch of new feed I just bought for my animals, and it's only good for about 3 weeks. And it cost me $145 for my pigs, and also another bag of chicken feed. Now, the point she's saying is eventually these homesteaders, these small farms and stuff like that, they're going to get to a point that either you need to start realizing that their cost is going up, and maybe you should give them $5 for their eggs, or give them tips or things like that. Or if you buy beef from Buddy, or you buy lettuce from a local place and stuff, realize that their cost is going up. Now, for a dozen eggs and stuff, and they're a little humble, and they'll actually sell at a loss. But the problem is that it will get to a point with the cost of all this stuff going up the way it is right now, like Dale's described, that they're going to get to a point where it's like, I can't afford to give food away like this. And they're going to start thinking about their own families. So if you're not supporting your homesteader, your small farms and stuff like that, eventually they're going to stop. They're going to say, I'm not doing this anymore. Either you give me fair amount to at least cover my costs, or I'm not selling to you all. My priority is going to be my family. So they might downsize and may grow a few more, less cows, a few less chickens, a few whatever, but enough to maintain their families, and to hell with the people around them. So we got to be aware of that. And that sounds cruel, but you think about that. It's like I sell eggs. I have people buying eggs a lot, but my people that buy eggs from me, they're actually really fair. So I have no complaint. But these ones that are like, oh, my neighbor sells me eggs for $2 a dozen or something, that your neighbor's doing you a favor, because that's not what it costs. And by the way, if you want to really know the difference between eggs at a store and the eggs from fresh, it's typically the eggs that you get at a grocery store can be over a month old. And if they've been washed and bleached and stuff like that, they do not keep very long in a refrigerator. However, if you get eggs from your local area, one is probably going to be no more than a week old. But if they don't wash them, like I try not to have to wash my eggs. If I don't have to wash my eggs, they'll last in the refrigerator for like 20 times longer than what would come from a store, because there's a protective coat on those eggs that are natural from chickens. So if you can find somebody chickens and they're not washing their eggs, but their eggs are still clean, that's the long-term storage of just in a refrigerator of an egg like that compared to what you buy the crap that you buy at Costco at these big deals and stuff doesn't compare. So I had to put that out for people. But anyway, realize that times are going to change. When all these costs are going up, eventually some people go, enough, I got to take care of me first. And I just want to make people aware of that is, if you got a community and if you are involved with other homesteaders and other small farms and you're dealing with farmers markets and stuff, treat those people like gold, because they may be your best friend when things crap hits the fan. And yeah, so I just want to bring that up. So I see Mark gave us another message here, and remind people that to get it now. So yeah, get it, be in a panic buying mode, and especially TP and all that stuff. I'm actually starting to notice that there's a little bit of panicking going on already. I don't know what you've seen out there, Dale, but
that's completely legitimate and everything else. I mean, people need to understand. You can look at these things as what Jack said there. As to what's going on, you're at the mercy of this stuff. You've got to have these plans, and this is a prepping plan. So what Ranger Rob just said about, knowing these people and developing some relationships and knowing where this food comes from and everything is, first off, it's going to be a lot easier to get to it. You're not going to have to go to the store. There's going to be quantities and everything else like this. And so you're probably going to see some of this start to really redevelop. The model's always been there for these, again, a short chain distribution. We looked at a deal the other day, beef producers, we follow some of them pretty close and everything. You've got to cut everybody out but you and the consumer. Okay, you've got to figure out how to make this thing work and cut that person out, particularly in these inflationary times. Okay, the numbers that I threw out, and I'll throw them out again, people, 2% per month. We've been probably around 24% a year. This shows no sign of slowing down. It could go to 40%. I'm not real happy about paying 40% more than I did last year. I've got a hell of a lot of choice in the whole thing right now on some stuff. I can impact it where I can, but just have that in the back of your mind that your food costs could double from what they are right now by the end of the year. Now, if that's fear mongering, okay, then let's talk about it at the end of the year, and we'll see if I have to apologize or if I was right.
I don't know. It's like I don't think you could get any closer to what we're all been talking about. Shit hitting the fan, or problems with our finances, or this even reset stuff going on. Just when you think, it doesn't look like we're going that direction, we get in deeper. And it's like this Ukraine war, you got to know that there's people out there that just thrive off that stuff. You can't let a good crisis go to waste. And they will take advantage of it. And then it's like, if you watch like the stocks, don't even relate the stocks to what's going on. The people playing the stocks are people that are got big money, and they go in and they short it and they do all this stuff and do swing trading and stuff like that and make millions. And but they're at a whole different level than us. It isn't like the old days. And so you just got to realize that we are so close to something. Well, it's already happening. We're just seeing small pieces of it, but eventually the big bomb's going to hit, was either a bomb or it's going to be our economy. It's going to be a recession, but most likely a depression. And you guys are going to see things with money that you've never noticed before, how a dollar is not worth as much as this. And a lot of you have never lived through that. And I haven't lived through it. I'm spoiled. I got to admit, I've got to keep reminding myself that I've never had to go through war times. I never had to go through rationing. I never had to go through, I've had high inflation in the 80s, and I had high mortgage rate in the 80s, but it was short-lived. There was a time that I bought a house at 14% interest in the 80s. That was the reality back then. So, so I
Right.
know a lot of people that in their lives, but I pay, that's a lot of interest on a mortgage. I'm telling you.
Well,
And that, go
is a
ahead.
lot of interest on a mortgage, and Russia's mortgages are like 15%. And in 1980, I know exactly the time frame you're talking about there and everything. And that they had to raise the interest rates to put the skids on inflation, and that's where we're at right now. That it's not, it's just not going to turn out well. Jack made a pretty good note there on the wheat futures and everything. I've looked at those a couple of times here in the last couple of days and everything. And there you go. That one's going to be behind the market 6 months or better, like this. And I don't know if you understand how much wheat the United States produces. I was in Flagstaff, Arizona, and we call them the grain trains. This was 4 or 5 years ago. Come through Flagstaff. They're a mile long, and they're nothing but grain cars, and they're going to Long Beach or somewhere like that to be exported and everything. And so those wheat futures are there. There's going to be a lot of gambling and everything right there now, because the farmers have no idea what their cost inputs, and the farmers will get screwed in this. And these guys that are running these wheat futures and going to short the market on wheat. I mean, when you start shorting the market on the most basic food staple product that there is, things are going to go south big time.
I'm going to have to trade my eggs for wheat with Jack.
The trouble with Jack, I mean, he's got the right idea there and everything. There's absolutely nothing the homesteader can do to produce grain. So just forget it. It doesn't work out. There's no economy of scale there whatsoever. Just figure out a way to do something. You can either buy or trade for that type of a product, and have 25, 50 pounds of flour around for those basic types of things. We're not baking our own bread yet. We could if we had to, but it all depends. We'll evaluate that when it gets to. But wheat is not, flour is not something that's easily. You're at the mercy of the market on that one.
For sure. And I need to remind everybody we're down to about our last minute or so, and we had a great conversations in the chat today. And I notice we still get a lot of our listeners after the show's over. So if you like to make comments and stuff, feel free to still add comments to the show, even if we're not live anymore. We'd love to hear your comments. And if you got something you'd like us to talk about, I think a lot of us right now, me and Dale both have this urgency to kind of just keep a fire under people's feet a little bit and get you to, if you're looking to the right, kind of drag your head over to the left and realize it's kind of like, okay, we see what's going on in Ukraine. Well, turn your head a little bit and take a look at Taiwan. Pay attention, and also pay attention to the east. And that's just an example. But also when it comes to cost of resources, energy, things like that, pay attention. If you haven't noticed, gas is getting up to $5 here. I've seen it too. I saw $4.99 right here in Terrebonne, but you can get a little bit better than that in some places. But it's all pushing towards the middle $4 to $5 a gallon here, and that's we're just a little small town out here, so it's creeping up on all of us, guys, and we need to pay attention. If you're looking to the right, take a look to the left, because you realize that the stuff is creeping up on us from all sides. And so pay attention. That's what our shows are all about. So got to wrap it up here. You want to add something there, Dale?
Not just have your head on a swivel, and just, assume it. I don't like being Dale Downer here or anything, but this is just not going to be a great year for, people economically and everything else. So do what you can to put yourself in the best possible position to ride this thing out, because it's not going to cure itself in a year. We're in this for a while. So this is the new normal. Start thinking that way.
Cool. Hey guys, we got to go. Thank you for watching. Until next week, make sure you leave your comments, and don't forget to share and like our shows. We appreciate it. So talk to you later, guys. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Thank you very much for watching our video. Please take the time to like, subscribe, and share our videos all over the whole wide world. Thanks.